네, 반갑습니다.
Good afternoon. As introduced, I am Hyun-suk from Amazon Web Service. We call it AWS. And I'm the head of business development. Today, I'm going to talk about the cloud computing technology. And I'm going to talk about the success cases at home and abroad to show you the DT trend of AWS global customers. We looked at different cases of shipping and shipbuilding, so I would like to look at slightly different industry to share with you the trend. And also, I titled my presentation Cloud Management Strategy, because DT is not the responsibility of just CIO or CDO, but also CPO, CMO, CEO. These are all relevant parties when it comes to DT. So before I look at specific cases, first I'm going to talk about why cloud computing for DT. At Amazon, this is the definition that we have on DT. Any activity to create incremental value to management value chain, leveraging digital data. So by digital data, we need some management of this digital data. And it's about how we can manage this in an economic and scalable way. And the cloud computing technology enables us to do that. And the second one, in the past when we said cloud computing, it was about storing data less expensively, but now it's AI machine, big data, AI VR, and we're talking about the fourth industrial revolution that is provided through DT. And why cloud computing? The third reason is in the case of AWS, which is responsible for cloud. We have thousands of features that we launch every year. So even though we don't think we are providing all the necessary elements of DT, we actually lay out this ground for third parties to provide solutions. And many of these are SaaS solutions, and we provide more than 12,000 products. And also, this can lead to DT solutions. So it's basically about having that ground. 2 to 3 years ago, cloud computing, I would say, was used to all the industries. And now I would say that DT based on cloud computing is taking place in every industry, in every corner of businesses. Due to time constraint, I'm not be able to go through all the cases, but I'd like to show you some great examples. First, in the field of marketing and CRM, I believe that you know this company, Korean company, Market Collie, which is a delivery company of fresh food. In 2015, its revenue was 50 billion, but it increased drastically to 1 trillion won. And with drastic increase in productivity, it means that it needs to be equipped with IT technologies. And this huge growth in a short period of time was enabled by IT technology. So the first growth strategy was to secure new households as customers. And Market Collie successfully secured many households in metropolitan areas, so their first strategy was successful. And the second strategy was increasing sales per household. For that, they have to personalize and customize their services. They should be able to provide good suggestions and make good recommendations for personalization. In the past, it used to be a rule-based scenario and recommendation, but using the AWS technology, we have this personalized service. And based on machine learning, we're very good at making recommendations on the basis of personalization. So by using personalized, shopping cart conversion rate grew hugely. And all the recommendations are made by machine learning of AWS. The second trend is smart product based on DT. That's the second trend. In the past, it was more about provision of simple products, but now customers have higher standards and they want to have distinguished experiences. And in the case of B2B customers, it's not just about provisioning hardware, but it's about total solutions and management solutions. So product as a service or providing smart products have become important. So the best example is the case of Korea. This is the company that developed the AC for the first time, and it announced that it would introduce a cold chain business. If you look at the background, 1/3 of food produced around the world is wasted and discarded before it is consumed by consumers because companies fail to manage temperature of this food. And there are many people who are suffering from hunger, and that's the economic loss of 1,000 trillion a year. Same thing applies to medical products. For instance, you must have been vaccinated against COVID-19, and let's say that there is a vaccine by Pfizer, and it has to be managed under certain temperature, otherwise it will go bad. So before it is vaccinated, many of the vaccines and medicines are discarded because they fail to manage the products at proper temperature. So we're working closely with Korea for this cold chain management. And across the value chain, end-to-end visibility tracking is enabled by links. For this tracking, of course, we are utilizing the IoT, machine learning, big data. These different technologies are used so that different use cases are reflected in the solutions. For instance, when you deliver products, fridged products, then you have to turn on the cooling devices. But if you turn on the cooling devices too early, then that would lose too much cost. So it's really about finding the right time to turn on the system. And across the platform, it identifies the location of food, traffic conditions, and it estimates the time of arrival so that cooling devices can be turned on and used at the right time. And throughout the cold chain on the right-hand side, you can see the picture of a vessel. They use vessels, and within these ships, they have cooling systems. Before they break down, we have this predictive maintenance system. So when the systems break, we know how to deal with these failures. Next, in the field of R&D, in terms of time to market revolution, we are doing our best to make a contribution that led to success. Automation, autonomous vehicles, these were the topics that we looked at. And in the case of Toyota, BMW, these are automotive companies that use ADA solutions and autonomous solutions. And based on the AWS systems, they can do their simulations faster. And in fighting COVID-19, Moderna and Pfizer, in their clinical trials, AWS provided huge support, and also simulation was greatly reduced in terms of time for semiconductor companies. So that's how we can utilize this technology in R&D. So the case in point is MediaTek, which is a Taiwanese company. The smartphone that you have or the smart TV that you have, I believe that you have some component from the MediaTek. So if you look at the semiconductor process, it's expressed in nanometers. So from 40 nanometers, now it's reduced to 7 nanometers. From 40 to 7 nanometers, the design complexity increased, and the intensity of transistors increased by 17 times. Transistor density increased by 17 times. And the simulation tool that is called EDA, the number of EDA jobs increased by 10 times, and the servers increased by 15 times. As you can see from the picture below, even if you make predictions, well, R&D has a lot of uncertainties. So when we have lots of simulations happening at the same time, then the simulation process is delayed, and that leads to a delay of a time to market. So at MediaTek, regarding the capacity for simulation, regarding how R&D can have fluctuations, we provided a solution of combining public cloud to go for hybrid cloud. Next one in the field of manufacturing. Well, partial optimization is done very well by many companies, and when it comes to global manufacturers, by site, by location, well, some of the fields for yields, some of the figures for yields are in the 90-something range, but it's not always that high in other parts of the world. So under the cloud environment, by combining machine learning and data, big data, we can optimize yields, predictions, and quality inspection so that we can optimize the overall process. So the case in point is Volkswagen. It's one of the biggest manufacturers in the world, and it was suffering from the same issue. It has 122 factories all across the continents, and it has more than 1,500 partner companies. So they had a lot of issues regarding the overall optimization. And it worked with AWS. And now, with AWS, it is developing the industrial cloud project. And it is moving data to the public cloud of AWS, and with the combination of machine learning, predictive maintenance, yield optimization, OEM, and quality inspection solution can be secured. And also Volkswagen App Store is being built. And this can be loaded onto the group App Store, and predictive solutions from 12 factories can be uploaded onto this, and these can be referenced by the rest of the factories if they're working well. And in operations, we also have a good example of the cloud. This is a case of Enel in Europe. So it's an electricity company. And as there were many natural disasters, including floods and so on, it has to be prepared to respond to these disasters. So what it did was to add high-tech sensors to substations. And that was to increase flood predictions and ozone monitoring. And under the public cloud environment, they did the machine learning to train the model. So, for instance, if the sensor senses this, that means there is a flood. And this predictive computing is delivered to the substation, and we make sure that there's no latency. And if there's a flood, then from the main SCADA system, it cuts off the adjacent substations. And if there's a burglar, then we can send the security personnel from a close-by area. So that was a quick introduction to success cases of our customers. And for those companies that are successfully going through DT, have these commonalities. So it's not like they are approaching this technology and they want to just experience this because there is a new technology in the market, but what they do is that they understand the pain point, they analyze this pain point, and they develop use cases. And second, how do we start DT? I believe it's just like when you start a new business. When we start a new business, we look at two things. First, how attractive is this? So how big is the market for us? And how well and how feasible are we in the market? So I believe the same concept applies to DT. First, what would be the area that has the greatest impact? What is the area that is most attractive? Second, feasibility. What is the area where we have the biggest data? So you might want to choose that particular area to have initial success. And third, like I stressed before, this DT cannot be successful if it's led only by IT or just one single team. It needs collaboration from OT as well, because operational teams are the ones that know the business very well. So you have to work closely with OT to increase the possibility of a successful DT. So that is the end of my presentation. I hope you can enjoy the rest of the session as well. Thank you.